This tutorial introduces the SQ4R study method. SQ4R is a textbook study strategy that will help you remember what you have read by increasing the retention of new and familiar information. SQ4R is an acronym that stands for Survey, Question, Read, Recite, Record, and Review. It is an active study strategy that will help you stay focused. It also helps you to comprehend difficult textbook material, recall material more efficiently, and become better prepared for tests. One of the biggest problems that students face is remembering what they've just read. One of the reasoning behind forgetfulness is because information goes into short-term memory first, which lasts about 60 to 30 seconds. If you don't do anything to capture the information that you're reading, then you're more likely to forget 90% of the material within 24 hours. Students need active rehearsal skills that help commit information into long-term memory. SQ4R is one of many active study strategies that will help retain what is read. It also involves several rehearsal strategies such as annotating, note-taking, and other memory techniques. Using these strategies and studying the material helps commit information into long-term memory, which in turn will help you better recall information. There are two basic concepts to remember. First, reading and remembering are two separate tasks. Most reading is done passively, which means we skim for minimum information. Passive reading then can become inattentive reading, which means we are not reading for understanding or comprehension. While studying, reading should be an active or busy process where you analyze information, marking your textbook, and take notes on important information. The second basic concept to remember is that every listening, reading, or writing activity has three parts: a before, during, and after. With the SQ4R process, you want to survey and question before reading the textbook. Then you want to read, recite, and record during the study process. Finally, you want to continue recording and reviewing the material after you finish reading the assigned chapters. Let's take a look at the SQ4R process more closely. First, you want to survey the textbook. Familiarize yourself with the textbook. Start with the table of contents or index. Ask yourself, am I familiar with any of the topics covered? This helps you decide if you have any prior knowledge of the topics that may be covered in class. Now pick any one chapter from the textbook. Look for any typography, such as bold or italicized words. Bold and or italicized words signal to the reader importance or order. Check to see how the book distinguishes headings and subheadings. Now check to see if the textbook has pictures, graphs, charts, maps, or illustrations. All of these features give you a visual aid to accompany the subject or topics covered in the chapter. Look at the other features that the textbook may have, such as sidebars, quizzes, reflective stops, checkpoints, chapter reviews, and or summaries. As a reader, these features can be very helpful when studying. If the textbook has a chapter summary, start there. By reading the chapter summary, you are preloading your brain with information about the chapter. Look for thinking questions or end of chapter reviews. All of this information are also helpful study guides. Once you have surveyed the text, ask yourself questions about the information. Use the common journalistic questions to get started. Ask who, what, when, where, why, and how questions. Guide questions prompt you to look for important ideas as you read. Look at the headings in the chapter and turn them into questions. For example, this heading explains the dimensions of wellness. Ask yourself, what are the dimensions of wellness? Also, look for author-created questions which will guide your critical thinking process. Predict test questions and test yourself periodically on the information. Next, you want to begin reading the textbook information. Find a time and a place where and when you can focus on the material. Break up your reading over periods of time. For example, read for 45 minutes to an hour, take a break, then return to reading the material. As you are reading, look for answers to the questions you ask yourself. Look up unfamiliar words and reread these sections for clarity. If the sections are difficult, read those sections more carefully. Put the information in your own words to make sure you fully comprehend the material. Recite the information you are reading. In other words, read out loud. Reading aloud signals your brain to pay attention to the information, and you're more likely to remember what you've read. Orally ask yourself questions about what you have just read, and then answer them in your own words. Get actively involved with the reading by highlighting, underlining, and annotating important information or key points, such as vocabulary, main ideas, supporting details, and topics discussed during lecture. If your textbook contains sidebars, quizzes, or reflective stops, take notes on these sections as this information may correlate with class discussions. If the textbook contains end of chapter reviews or thinking questions, take notes on this information as well as respond to the questions. You make strong connections with the material through activities that you work through yourself, which in turn fosters metacognition, which helps you think about the ideas you are learning. Once you are done reading and actively recording your textbook information, begin reviewing the material. Page through the text and/or your notes, questions, and answers to reacquaint yourself with the important points. Review the material to determine what areas you need to focus on or that you may have missed to increase your understanding when you read the material. Create graphic organizers, make flashcards, or develop mnemonic devices such as fanboys or PEMDAS to help memorize lengthy information. It's important to use textbooks as effective study tools. To truly learn from your textbook, you must understand their structure, why you are using them, and how to get the most out of them. SQ4R is one study strategy that will help you use your textbook more effectively and become a self-regulated, independent learner. For more information and help with SQ4R and other study strategies, visit the Learning Connection, second floor, room 256 in the Learning Commons.